Green spaces will have to compete with other land use needs, particularly with the growing need for housing. The government is exploring other development strategies, such as redeveloping existing sites like golf courses. But developing forested areas is still a possibility for now. The parliamentary response on conservation followed weeks of public debate about the fate of the Clementi and Dover forests.
Housing is a pressing need for Singapore. It's a reality that is in conflict with other land use demands, such as space for greenery. National Development Minister Desmond Lee says the evidence comes from the continued high demand for public flats. Last year, more than 5 Singaporeans applied for every one available built-to-order flat.
In the near term, we expect more demand from the larger echo baby boomer cohorts born in the late 80s to 90s as they enter into marriageable age. Our public housing demand is also partly driven by changing social structures. For example, there is a growing trend of smaller households as more young couples, singles, and their parents choose to have their own flats and their own homes instead of staying with their extended families.
The experience of going through the pandemic has also impacted the government's evaluation of land use. COVID-19 raised the possibility of increasing local agriculture production and providing for buffer land sites during emergencies. Mr. Lee said that part of this demand could be met by using already developed sites, such as golf courses. He said the government would take back more than 400 hectares of such land for redevelopment by 2030. But he cautioned that such a strategy has its limitations.
Many of these moves take time and require complex planning and careful coordination because they affect people, homes, livelihoods, and industries. So we cannot redevelop these spaces overnight, but plan far, far ahead, like now, for the needs of the next generation. There are also different trade-offs to weigh, including the compatibility of a new development with surrounding land uses and the availability and capacity of supporting infrastructure.
Mr. Lee conceded that the development of forested sites may have to be considered, but he sounded a word of caution.
Any decision to proceed is made only after a detailed study of the trade-offs and alternatives, including the assessment of ecological and biodiversity value. And where development cannot be entirely avoided, we proceed with care.
Mr. Lee maintained that Clementi Forest would be zoned for residential development, but with no immediate need to develop it. He also announced that the public feedback exercise for the environmental study of Dover Forest would be extended by 4 weeks.
Can I just clarify with the Minister that when these assessments are made, especially when an environmental impact assessment is commissioned, the assessment looks not just at the plot of land under consideration, but also at the implications for the rest of the network of biodiversity if a particular node is developed.
Mr. Lee confirmed that such studies are not limited to site-specific environmental concerns. There's also how ecological connectivity would be affected beyond it. The government will make adjustments in response to such concerns. He said that was also the process involved in Tengah's development.